The moment Sarah Chen saw the pack of motorcycles closing in on her 18-wheeler through the side mirror, she felt that familiar knot tighten in her stomach. Not again. Not today. She'd been driving cross-country routes for 8 years now, and she could always tell the difference between friendly bikers giving a wave and the ones looking for trouble. These 5 riders had been tailing her for the last 20 miles on this empty Nevada highway, revving their engines, cutting dangerously close, their laughter carrying over the desert wind. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly know, was that Sarah wasn't alone in that cab. Behind the driver's seat, in the custom-built compartment she designed herself, were Rex and Luna, her 2 Belgian Malinois service dogs. And those bikers were about to learn a lesson they'd never forget. Sarah had learned early in life that the world wasn't always kind to women who chose unconventional paths. Growing up in a small Oregon town, she'd watched her mother struggle as a single parent, working 3 jobs to keep their trailer heated through harsh winters. At 16, Sarah had promised herself she'd never be vulnerable, never be helpless. She'd gotten her commercial driver's license at 21, despite the raised eyebrows and condescending remarks from male instructors who suggested she'd be better suited for secretarial work. The trucking industry had been Sarah's salvation and her proving ground. Behind the wheel of her Freightliner, she was free. The endless highways became her meditation, each delivery a small victory against everyone who doubted her. But freedom came with dangers, especially for women drivers on lonely stretches of road. That's why she'd trained Rex and Luna, not as pets, but as partners. The motorcycles pulled alongside her truck now, close enough that she could see their faces in the mirror. Young men, probably in their 20s, wearing mismatched leather and sporting week-old stubble they probably thought looked tough. The leader, a stocky guy with a red bandana, made obscene gestures toward her window. Another one pulled ahead, then deliberately slowed down, forcing Sarah to brake on the empty highway. Her hands tightened on the steering wheel. She could feel Rex stirring behind her, his breathing changing. He sensed her tension. After 4 years together, they were practically telepathic. Luna remained still, but Sarah knew she was awake, watching, waiting. "Easy, boys," Sarah murmured, though whether she was talking to the dogs or trying to calm herself, she wasn't sure. The bikers began their predictable routine, surrounding her truck, boxing her in, forcing her to slow to a crawl. Sarah had seen this before. They'd have their fun scaring her, maybe force her to stop, then ride off laughing about the terrified woman trucker they'd harassed. It was a power game, cruel and pointless. But Sarah had stopped being a victim a long time ago. The red bandana leader pulled directly in front of her, standing up on his bike's footpegs, spreading his arms wide in a mock invitation for her to hit him. His friends howled with laughter. One of them threw something, a beer can, that bounced off her windshield. That's when Sarah made her decision. She pressed the button on her custom CB radio, the one connected directly to Nevada Highway Patrol, and calmly stated her location and situation. Then she did something that would change everyone's day. She pulled over. The bikers whooped and hollered, circling her truck like sharks smelling blood. They probably thought they'd won. Sarah sat still for a moment, watching them in her mirrors, calculating. Then she reached back and quietly unlatched the compartment door. "Rex, Luna," she said softly. "Ready." Both dogs went rigid, their training kicking in instantly. They weren't attack dogs. Sarah had never trained them to harm anyone. But they were protection dogs, trained in controlled aggression, intimidation, and defensive maneuvers. More importantly, they could read situations and respond with precisely calibrated force. The leader swaggered up to her door, his friends dismounting behind him. He banged on the metal with his fist. "Come on out, sweet thing. We just want to talk." Sarah rolled down her window exactly 3 inches. "I suggest you gentlemen get back on your bikes and leave. Now." The leader's grin widened. "Or what? You gonna call your boyfriend?" His friends erupted in laughter. "No," Sarah said calmly. "I'm going to ask you one more time. Leave, please." She meant that please. Despite everything, despite her anger and fear and frustration, Sarah still believed in giving people chances. Her mother had taught her that. Kindness first, always kindness first. But her mother had also taught her to protect herself. Red bandana reached for her door handle. "I think we're gonna." He never finished the sentence. Sarah pressed a button, and her door swung open with hydraulic force, knocking him backward. In the same instant, Rex and Luna exploded from the cab. But they didn't attack. They didn't bite. Instead, they executed exactly what Sarah had trained them to do. They controlled the situation. Rex landed between Sarah and the lead biker, his 75 pounds of muscle positioned defensively, his bark sharp and commanding. Luna circled around, herding the other bikers away from the truck, her movements precise and purposeful. Both dogs maintained what trainers called controlled aggression, all show and warning, creating a protective barrier without actual violence. The transformation in the bikers was instantaneous. The swagger disappeared. Red Bandana stumbled backward, his hands raised, his face pale. Whoa, call them off. They're service dogs, Sarah said, stepping down from her cab, her voice steady. They're doing their job, which is protecting me from people who won't take no for an answer. One of the younger bikers, barely 20 by the look of him, was actually trembling. Luna had positioned herself between him and his motorcycle, not threatening, just present, an immovable reminder of consequences. Sarah studied their faces. Fear, yes, but also something else. Shame, maybe, recognition that they'd crossed a line. These weren't hardened criminals. They were just kids playing at being tough guys, probably showing off for each other, never considering the real person behind the wheel of that truck. Here's what's going to happen, Sarah said. You're going to get back on your bikes. You're going to leave. And you're going to think very carefully about whether scaring women on empty highways is really the kind of man you want to be. Red Bandana found his voice, though it cracked. Look, we didn't mean. Yes, you did, Sarah interrupted. You meant to scare me. To intimidate me. To make yourselves feel powerful by making someone else feel small. And you know what? It worked. I was scared. I am scared. But I'm also done being quiet about it. The silence that followed was heavy. In the distance, Sarah could hear sirens, the highway patrol responding to her call. The bikers heard it too. Please, Sarah said, and this time the word carried different weight. Just go. Before this becomes something on your permanent record. Before this becomes a story you have to tell your families, your girlfriends, your future kids. The youngest one moved first, walking slowly to his bike, giving Luna a wide berth. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Really, I'm sorry. It was like a dam breaking. Another biker nodded, muttering apologies. A third actually had tears in his eyes. Red Bandana stood frozen for a moment longer, then his shoulders sagged. My sister drives trucks, he said suddenly, his voice barely above a whisper. She's told me stories. About guys like me. He looked up at Sarah, and she saw genuine horror in his eyes. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sarah felt her anger softening, not disappearing but transforming into something else. These were just people. Flawed, stupid, capable of cruelty but also capable of growth. She'd learned that lesson the hard way, working with dogs. Every animal could be rehabilitated with patience and understanding. People deserved at least the same chance. Tell your sister, Sarah said, that there's a woman driver in Nevada who hopes she never has to deal with what I just dealt with. And then actually mean it. The sirens were getting closer. The bikers mounted their motorcycles, their earlier bravado completely evaporated. As they started their engines, the youngest one paused. Thank you, he called out. For not, thank you. Then they were gone, roaring off in the opposite direction, leaving only dust and the echo of engines. Sarah stood in the desert silence, Rex and Luna pressing against her legs, offering comfort now instead of protection. She felt her hands shaking, the delayed adrenaline finally hitting. She'd been so strong, so controlled, but now the fear caught up with her. The highway patrol arrived minutes later. Sarah gave her statement, showed the dashcam footage, answered questions. The officers praised her handling of the situation, took note of the bikers' descriptions, assured her they'd follow up. As they left, one officer, a woman about Sarah's age, lingered. My mom was a trucker, she said. Back in the 80s, before anyone thought women belonged in these jobs. She had stories that would make your hair curl. But she always said the same thing, the world changes when people decide to change it. One moment, one choice at a time. Sarah nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. That night, parked at a rest stop, Sarah sat in her cab with Rex and Luna curled around her. She thought about those bikers, wondered if the encounter would actually change them. She hoped so. She had to hope so. Her phone buzzed. A message from her dispatcher, checking if she was okay, if she wanted to take a day off. Sarah smiled and typed back that she'd be fine, she'd make her delivery on schedule. Because that's what she did. She kept moving forward. Every mile driven was a small act of rebellion, a quiet insistence that she belonged exactly where she was. And now, thanks to 2 loyal dogs and 1 moment of standing her ground, maybe 5 other people understood that a little better too. As Sarah drifted off to sleep, Rex's warm weight against her side, she thought about kindness and strength, and how they weren't opposites but partners. Like her and her dogs. Like every woman who'd ever driven these highways before her, clearing the path for those who'd follow. The road stretched endless ahead, full of challenges and dangers and possibilities. But Sarah wasn't afraid. Not anymore. Not ever again. She had her strength, her skills, her faithful companions. And she had the knowledge that sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is show someone who they could be, if only they chose to be better.